CEWT Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. This podcast is part of our continuing outreach efforts, and the format is conversation. We're having conversations with businesses, professionals, entrepreneurs, community agencies, and in all cases, difference makers. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So subscribe today. Take 20 minutes and hear from people living in your community who are making a difference in your community. It's time to get started with CEWT Talk.
Hey, hello everyone. This is Jason Batalden, here with Continuing Education Workforce Training, and this is CEWT Talk, our fantastic, wonderful podcast. And Paul, our fantastic.
Modest there, Jason.
I am. You know what? If it hasn't come out in our podcast before, it should now. I think, and I can speak for you too, Paul, if you don't mind. We're pretty darn proud of the little thing we got going on here.
Oh yeah. You know, the thing is, it's one of the things, I have a lot of duties here at Continuing Education Workforce Training, but this is the one that I like going, I love doing this every single week. I love doing this. It's so, I get to banter with you. I get to meet new and interesting people and have other people that we've had on back again that I enjoyed speaking with. And so this is actually a great time. And we're actually starting to get people who follow us and listen on a regular basis, and we appreciate that also. Right. All the people who follow us, and I sometimes scratch my head going, why do they listen to us?
No, we don't want to admit that out loud, Paul, but thank you for doing that. But no, I agree with you. It's a fun podcast, and we do have people who are tuning in the show on a regular basis, and we're excited for that. With that being said, what we're excited for today is, I guess I'm going to say this honestly, Caitlin, you're probably like top 4 favorite guests that I
right on.
So I just want you to know that. If you guys don't know, this is Caitlin Pankau, and we'll say the magic word here in a minute and get the podcast started. But she's been on the show before, and we had a wonderful conversation. And today we decided to bring her back on and have a conversation about the challenges and the joys that she's experienced in the last year since she's been on the show. And with that being said, welcome, Caitlin. Please reintroduce yourself to our audience.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me. So I'm Caitlin, and I teach at Pocatello High School here in Pocatello. I'm in the English department, and this year I'm teaching 9th grade honors and dual credit for English 101 and English 175. Right. So I'm working with seniors and freshmen this year, which is quite the stretch of, what they're capable of, but it's pretty amazing. We're in week 5, and it's going pretty smooth. So
that's cool. So week 5, that's it. You found the gear. You're no longer having to shift through the gears. You're in cruise control mode for a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I think last year really threw us for a loop, but I learned a ton of what I should do, for it forced me to use technology, which I was kind of like an old fashioned teacher, even though my age suggests I shouldn't be. And so I really learned how to use Google and Google Classroom and how to do assignments on that and make them actually beneficial. So it really pushed me out of my comfort zone, but I think it's been really beneficial for my students and for me, of course. But, the most important thing is, can the students use it effectively? Yes. Cool. Let's, do the learning. So I'm finally out of that big hill of a climb of what does technology look like in an English classroom and how do I make it work? Right. So now I'm triumphant. So yay.
Yay. Until the next curveball comes.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't mean to be cynical, I guess, but I guess that's kind of, you jumped right into it. The last school year, of course, with the impact of COVID-19, not just Pocatello High School, not just school district number 25, not just the state of Idaho. I mean, the entire country, if not globally, was trying to figure out how to continue the education, a high quality education, and in amidst all the ramifications of COVID-19. So can you kind of just chat with us a little bit? What did it look like on your end, at least in the initial process when, lockdowns kind of come into play? You're still in the middle of school. You got students mean, what was that like? And I guess, if to be honest, this time last year, you were out of the lockdown. That's right. Correct.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We were in hybrid learning,
Right.
where it was the every other day, A day, B day. And then teachers had one day a week to really like focus on grading and reaching out to students. I think what really came out of that was we realized that the actual physical classroom is the great equalizer. And it gives the kids the opportunities and the equity that we talked about before when they're in class, and we can give them what they need. But the differences of what's available at home, a lot of students, parents were still working, right? Because they need to. So they were, if they had siblings, they might have been in charge of helping their siblings with all of their online work. They were trying to do their online work. Maybe they were working. And so, that's just one story of hybrid and what it looked like for students, where it could have been a really hard struggle because there's no teacher there to help. There's really, you're kind of just learning on your own. And so, but if they had the opportunity to be in the classroom, then the teacher is there, their peers are there, they have more of an open communication. Whereas the other side of it is some kids thrived on hybrid. Where they had the opportunity to work quickly or slowly at their own pace. They were comfortable with the material they were getting. Working online made sense to them. And so I think that was really hard, because how do you make online education equitable when everyone's learning from home? And how do we make sure that everybody's getting what they need?
Right.
Caitlin, I don't know if you know this, but I'm also the coordinator for the apprenticeship program here at Idaho State University. And I actually introduced a hybrid class 3 years ago in my program, because I'm working with gentlemen who work in the trades. They work all day long, and it was, sometimes they can't make it into our classroom. It's easier if they have the home destination. But you're absolutely right about that. Some people thrive on that online learning, and others just falter. Sometimes it's that technology barrier. They don't know how to work the technology, but also it's that interaction or the socialization part of a classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. That working together. How do I work as a team? How do I work, with a partner? What do I need to do with these skills? What does it look like when it's, assessed that way? And my classroom is very much set up in groups where everybody is collaborating all the time. And that collaboration leads to so much learning. But, when you're isolated, you can try collaboration on a Google Doc, but not quite.
Right. Well, and you have, when you have that online learning aspect, again, you have that, I don't know, it's almost like a wall between you and I'm not instructing, but my instructors, that was another thing. Instructors learning to teach online was a gigantic barrier as well, because they had to not learn this new way of connecting with the students, and they still struggle with that. Connecting with, that's the whole thing, connecting with your students. Eye-to-eye, real true eye-to-eye contact is so instant recognition. You can look in a student's eyes and go, oh, they get it. With online, you're looking through a camera and you're like, sometimes they just look like painted faces, in a gallery.
Yeah. I think relationship is key. And that's what this district really focuses on, is relationships can lead to so much more learning and things like that. But how do you create a relationship on the internet, right? Or on the computer or on Google? And we had a real struggle too with, because I know a lot of hybrid classes in college, professors will, record their lectures or their instructions and things like that. And so we had a lot of teachers participating in putting their lectures online, but a lot of kids wouldn't participate in watching those. Right. And simply, was it in real time? Then would the kids be there on real time? If it was recorded, would they watch it later? And so they had these big gaps of, you have a quiz or something or an assignment on this, but if you didn't watch the presentation, then you had a gap in your information. And how to ensure that students go through the tasks of, this thing first, this thing next, and then go into what we're requiring of you. And that was a real challenge for teachers. What is the best way to organize our online learning so that it best benefits students? Too. So
I guess the other side maybe too is I was just thinking about that, right? That transition going, the 18 months or the year before, right? We go through the lockdown and quickly scramble to figure out how to continue that education, enter the following fall semester. Okay, this is going to be a hybrid model. And then now this year, I guess one of the things also about that online learning, and I just thought about this, is you do kind of get some instant feedback from your students. Now, whether or not you can make contact with them, but right away who's engaging, who's not. Mm-hmm. And it starts being able for you to kind of ask those questions, why, what's going on, and what can we do to help? And I suppose that was a struggling part as a teacher, because, there is the delivery of the content, but there's also, the engagement piece. And so the one perk is you're getting immediate feedback, who's engaging and who isn't. The challenge, of course, then is how does we get those students to engage who are having difficulty in doing that?
Right. And to give them effective feedback that will help them go on to the next step. Like, I am much better in person. I can say that right now. I am loud. I'm zesty. I'm obnoxious sometimes. And it's really kind of a show that I put on. And that does not speak to online very well. And trying to get those kids engaged is, you don't hear my stupid jokes and my ridiculous laughter when somebody says something funny, and it's hard to get that across. So I think a lot of teachers were like, but I'm so much better in person. It's like, yep, but we got to deal with what we've got. Right. And make the best of it.
And that's the whole thing. Like I said, when I did mine 3 years ago, COVID wasn't around. That was a choice to make it easier for attendance. And my attendance did increase substantially when I did that. But again, the instructor was having trouble engaging. Some of the students had trouble engaging. It was a whole new way of, I mean, part of what I did to kind of counter whether they were engaged is I chase my students. Mm-hmm. My instructors they're part-time people that have their own lives and the full-time positions. So they can give the lectures and they can answer technical questions and so forth. But it's up to me to care about whether my students are doing their work. Mm-hmm. So it's constantly looking to see, did they do their work? And if they haven't done the work, I actually reach out and call them and say, hey, I noticed you're not doing your work. Is there a problem? Is there some way I can help you? I've never accused someone. I said, are there barriers that I can help you with? But that's the only way that I could counter, this new online thing, was to take a proactive approach to follow up and actually engage with them when they weren't doing work.
Yeah. Yeah. We had that for that one day. For the first trimester of hybrid, I think it was Wednesdays for teachers. And then the second trimester of hybrid was Fridays. But that's when we chased our students to make sure, checking in with them. What can I help you? What can I do? Are you sick? Can I give you some extra time? And things like that, to make sure that they are engaged, to get those pieces that are important. And I think that all comes down to, right, is choice. Like equity is making sure that students have the ability to get what they need, but equality is that everybody has this opportunity. And so I think we saw the difference with that. Like, our online things and the way that we instructed were equal for all, because it was all online, all hybrid, all every other day. But it was that equity piece, that how do you get those kids what they need specifically to succeed? So
it's been a minute, and I know you're kind of still in it. I know that, that debate of, still there is the potential, right, depending on the track of the virus and who knows what will happen in our community. But so I don't want to give the illusion that we're out of this by any means, but you've had now a good full year and a half and 5 weeks now into this next year. Have you had a chance to maybe kind of think back, and what did you appreciate about this experience in the last 18 months? Have you found anything that you're like, yeah, you know what? I probably wouldn't have had that experience if it wasn't for this, the circumstance. And then looking back on it, I appreciate that.
I think that I have so many thoughts about this, but I think.
Oh, good.
I think one of the biggest things was that it made me realize that I can slow down in my approach to teaching the information for students, and that we can take the time to talk to each other. And it might not be, associated with the specific essay we're working on, but it's also good for us to make community and make those connections. I'm still seeing that we still feel very disjointed. that we're all in school and it's all in person, but there's still this disconnectedness amongst the students. And I think it's because, Pokey specifically went through a lot of changes last year. And that on top of all of it is kind of hard. The kids are still working through it. And so I think because we're still, chewing on those meaty bits of change, that we got to take the time to actually connect with one another and, have those conversations. Hybrid was amazing because I had smaller class sizes, right? Where my A day was half and my B day was half. And I had the opportunity to really form relationships with students. Not that I don't get that opportunity now, but it is a little bit more difficult. My largest class is 33 this year, and so I want to connect to everyone. All teachers do, because relationship is the key, to learning and community, but it can make it a little bit harder. I think it made me value the opportunity I had to just get to know those 12 students, or I had a class of 4 students because of A day, B day last names. Right. Gosh, we had the best time. And I think sometimes teachers feel the pressure that I've got to get through all these standards. I've got to get all these papers done. I've got to, but we really have the time to slow down a little bit and get to know each other, because there's always that quote, and it's probably cliche at this moment, and I have no idea who said it, but it's, kids don't remember what you taught them. They remember how you made them feel. Yep. Right. And I think that's so applicable to all of this. Are we patient with one another? Are we giving each other grace? Right.
Oh, that's a great term. Thank you.
I think that's probably the key from all of this. Are we giving each other grace?
Right.
Are we giving ourselves grace?
Right. I think that, and I think that just speaks if we expand that out in context a little bit, we can take that application outside of the classroom and into life in general. Right. And how many opportunities, regardless of, what political or argumentative or whatever side the fence on, are you given to approach someone with grace, where we maybe weren't aware of those opportunities pre-COVID. And I'm just thinking going in the grocery store, right? Going in the grocery store and having to interact with people again, and trying to be respectful and kind and generous. And I think that probably applies to a lot more than just the classroom. At least I for me personally, I would say I've been challenged to respond with grace more than I probably was aware of or had opportunity to pre-COVID.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, right? And they call those soft skills, right? Yes, soft skills. But they really make all the difference, I think. We take those soft skills and they really can determine our future.
Yep.
So
very good. So on the flip side of that coin, and I don't want to set you up to get in trouble, but if there's something you wish you could had done differently, or looking back on it, and I understand there was a lot of things outside of your control, as all of us, right?
So much for educators.
But if there was one thing you're looking back going, I wish I would have had the knowledge I have now, and I might have approached that situation differently. Is there anything that you would have said, okay, this should have been done different? And again, I'm not looking for, I'm not looking to get you in trouble, but
right. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there is anything that I would have done differently. I'm not typically a person that looks back and goes, oh, I regret that. I just take it, I learn, and I keep going. I think maybe I wouldn't have been so stubborn for change or dug my heels in, or I think it's that grace factor, right? Sure. Where I need to be
gracious to yourself. Right?
Yes, I think so. And to know that, I don't know, it's all going to just to go, I guess I would go back and tell myself, hey, self, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And you're going to come out on this with a lot of benefits, even though it doesn't seem like it right now. Like, you're going to grow as a professional instead of like crossing my arms and going, this is terrible. I can't believe this. I can't believe that. It's like, yeah, okay. Terrible attitude. Like, try to reframe. We talk about mindset a lot in school, a growth mindset. And I think, again, past self, like, hey, try to see this as growing, but it's really hard to see stuff like that in the moment,
Sure.
right?
Right.
When it seems like the entire world is figuratively and literally on fire.
Right.
So, it's hard to come
Right.
from that. But I think that's it. Just try to keep more of a positive outlook.
Right.
Well,
I think, sorry to cut you off, but I guess I just wanted to say I agree with you in this one point. At least I found it true in myself, kind of this close connection, is I just wish I would have kind of embraced that there was the normal that I had perceived was never really normal. And what I was holding on to was just self-made rules and laws and conditions that didn't probably deserve to be there in the first place. And so I think I wish I would have, like you said, embraced the change a little easier. And I think so I appreciate you sharing that, because I found a connection there. Thank you.
Yeah,
well,
of course.
I think, and we all had to deal with change, and the change came so abruptly, and we're asked to do this change, and all the while we're concerned for our health, we're concerned for our family's health, and that additional stress to just doing the day by day things to keep going with teaching and doing your job is kind of, I think we all were under a bunch of stress to because we had to learn new skills and also go, oh, I hope I don't get sick, oh, I hope I don't make my family sick, I hope everyone is healthy. They're making us do this thing, and I don't know if we can be healthy, and but again, but we still have to move on, we still have to continue. How can we do this? So the past year has been super.
Right. And I guess I'll just toss this out, kind of touching on that equity thing. I think from your perspective, would you say that the one thing that COVID brought was a clear delineation on the equity issue, that if there were students who were lacking in some areas, that those became obvious. And I think that hopefully, and not just in our education, but maybe in all of our society, we kind of focus on what can be done to provide a more equitable environment for both learning and what else we've got to do.
Yeah, it kind of made those issues a little bit more clear to all people instead of just some people, right?
There you go.
Like, oh, this is a problem. Like, oh, we've been saying it's a problem. Like, thank you for this. Now let's do something about it. Instead of just naming it and saying, look, see, we've got to actually put it into action, right? And I think that's important. One of my colleagues, she actually works in North Carolina. Her name is Turquoise. And she says that equity plus action equals justice. And we want justice within our education system for all students to be able to get that equity plus action. And I think that's really important for us to be able to do. We need that action piece. We can say, look at all this, but if nothing is happening, then nothing will change and students won't get everything that they need, I think.
That's right. And that's the challenge. And there went our timer. So I like to end a podcast on a challenge, and maybe we now set ourselves up for another podcast sometime in the future to continue that conversation about what are things that need to be put in action in order to get the justice that we all deserve. So,
well, also you talk about equity. I think one of the brazen examples of non-equity that we had going forward in school year is that access to internet.
Absolutely.
You didn't know until you had to teach that had students that had no internet or internet that was not something that they could learn on, and I take those things for granted, and in today's day, that should be a utility. That should be something that everyone has access to all the time. And it was so surprising when you come and go, I don't have that. And then trying to solve those problems because you do want equity and throughout all the students. So how does the school system provide that equity for someone who's lacking?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually in that situation. So I didn't have a desktop computer at home, and I didn't have internet at home. And so then my spouse and I are teachers, and all of a sudden we have to teach online from home, and we're like, can you do this from an iPhone? Is this possible? So the challenge there was like, oh my gosh, we have got to revamp. We need an office and all of the things. So, it applies to students, to educators, to, families all around. So that's an excellent point that it should be a utility.
So when you said on the beginning of this podcast that you weren't quite technically up to speed, what you really meant to say was you are a Luddite.
Yes.
I am. You still use candles to light your home, don't you?
Oh my gosh, most days, yes. In the evening, it sets an ambiance.
Oh, I appreciate you. Okay. Well, we got to get off the show. And Caitlin, we got you, and we want to get you back to the classroom and making a difference. And we're so glad.
Yes.
And from us to you, I want you to know that we support you and your efforts 100%. And I don't know what action I can put behind that other than just to tell you that we got your back. So,
thank you. I appreciate having the time today.
Right
well,
on.
In the past year, I think many parents have forgotten, or maybe some finally did realize, hey, your teachers are out there and they're doing their best for your children. Appreciate them. Say thank you.
There you go. Now, with that being said, Paul, we want people to say something to us. So please email us, let us know, give us comments, give us some feedback at CE Train, and those are the letters CE Train at isu.edu. Check out our website, the same thing, CE Train .isu.edu. Thank you. And our phone number,
208-282-3372. Caitlin, that's my job on this show.
Caitlin, it was a joy. It was a pleasure. I can't wait to talk to you again. Keep up the good work in School District 25. Keep making a difference in Pocatello High.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Right on.